3 rounds down and 3 rounds to go in the ProVelo Super League. Hello and welcome to the Road to the World Tour. Matt Keenan and Matilda Raynolds with you. And Tills, today we're going to take a look back at what was a sensational edition of the Spirit of Tasmania Cycling Tour.
Oh, Matt, sensational indeed. It was just a dream. In the men's, it was won by 1 second. And in the women's, we had the crown move over within a team. It was just so many headlines. And it's what I loved about the Spirit of Tassie Tour was that it didn't play out how we expected at all. We had criterium champions winning on mountain stages. We had mountain riders podiuming in the criterium. So, yeah, it was just a really exciting round of the ProVelo League, really.
And the men's race, it was 1 second in the end between Zac Ward, who we spoke to last week, and Zac Marriage. So we're not going to talk to Jack again. We've already spoken to him. It was a brilliant performance. We're going to catch up with Zac Marriage fairly shortly. You mentioned the performance in the women's race. Sophie Marr, I tipped her to win the crit as the second favourite behind Keely Bennett, and she did finish in second position. I never would have picked her to have won this tour outright. How did she climb so well? We're going to ask her that question. She's joining us soon as well.
Yeah, and I also think what I loved about it just really brings even more prestige to the league, because the emotion that we saw from Hamish McKenzie, who won on stage 3, and also it was Lauren Bates who actually won on stage 4 on the Queen's stage. The emotion from these world-class riders as they crossed that finish line in the clouds, I think just really spoke to how important this league is for every rider, whether they're competing for the contract with Liverlula Jayco or Jayco Lula. They know that everyone's watching, and it's a huge to have on their Paramares.
Yeah, another one of the big performances was from a Tasmanian, Hamish McKenzie. And we're not able to catch up with Hamish live, but we have recorded an interview with him. But Dan Jones has done the interview. So we'll be playing that a little bit later on in the show. And he's a rider with huge expectations on his shoulders, and rightly so after getting second in the time trial at the Junior World. So I haven't seen that interview yet. I'm looking forward to hearing what he's got to say. So we're going to catch up with Hamish. We've got Zac Marriage coming on, and we've also got Sophie Marr coming. In a moment, we're going to get Angus's take on the PSL Pulse. But before we get to that, let's run through the leaderboards, because, Tills, there's been some changes in the summer men's classification. Zac Ward leading ahead of his teammate Blake Agnoletto, but Zac Marriage in third position. It looks like a big gap, but it can turn around pretty quickly with still 3 races to go.
Yeah, and that's really what we're going to have to dissect. How does Zac Marriage win this from that position? And we know that Blake Agnoletto is going to be heading to Europe, so he's going to be missing, I think, the remainder of the league. But, you know, this rivalry between Jack and Zac, who have obviously been the 2 strongest riders throughout the tour. And what I've just loved from them as well is, you know, I want to ask Zac about, like, how is he having to be a sprinter now? And, like, pretty much both of the men had their heads on a swivel. So curious how he's going to get there.
And in the under-23s, they're the 2 that we're talking about. And that's the big battle for the Jayco under-23 classification. Zac Ward, Zac Marriage, Hamish McKenzie, he's out of the ProVelo Super League now because he's already with the development squad for Green Edge. So he's heading off to Europe to start his campaign there. Which one could potentially be a teammate with him as a stagiaire at the end of the season? It's getting tight between Ward and Marriage. We're going to catch up with Zac shortly. And in the Billigence under-19s, it's Connor Wright with a 50-point lead over his teammate. It's Ollie Djurjevic in second position. Vinny Magnon is in third place. 3 riders from ARA inside the top 3. And they've got another 3 still inside the top 8. But importantly, Tills, Connor Wright is sitting in 8th position overall.
Yeah, and he was 6th over the weekend. So I think that was just, I think what's so fantastic for these under-19s, Matt, is that they're able to watch and learn and be a part of it, and they can really see what they need to do and where they need to get to. So I think for him to come 6th on GC, Connor Wright, as an under-19 in one of the hardest rounds that we have in the ProVelo Super League would have been really important for him.
And we spoke to his team manager, his sports director, Jordan Kirby, on Friday. He didn't have the Velo phone on. That was Tristan Saunders in the race, but he had the by the side of the road phone, and he was glowing in his appraisal of Connor Wright. And we've seen more evidence of that already. The hype around Connor, I think that it is really well founded. He's got a 50-point lead in the under-19s. Let's take a look at the women's with the SBS Women's Leaderboard. And we're a little biased, but it's fantastic to have SBS on board supporting the women's part of the ProVelo Super League. And this is where there has been a change at the top, Tills, because it's now Sophie Marr. She leads. She's on 355 points. Next best, her teammate Talia Appleton on 278, followed by Caitlin Nicholson on 252.
Yeah, Matt, there's been a gigantic shift here in the women's leaderboard, but we are just over halfway. So there's still plenty of racing to come. And I think that just makes it even more exciting. Like there's still a lot of opportunity. Anything can happen, which is what we've seen this past weekend. So I'm looking forward to chatting to Sophie Marr about how the weekend was for her.
And the JCO under 23 category, it's the same two at the top of the table. In fact, look at the top three. It was the Prady celebration of 25 years on the weekend down in Tasmania. And this is the team that has delivered so many young riders to World Tour level. And they have the top three in the JCO under 23 category. Sophie Marr on 352, Talia Appleton on 278, and then Sophia Salmons on 183. That's a stranglehold for Prady's.
Yeah, it was definitely, they could make their cake and eat it too, really. They had a great weekend and a brilliant way to celebrate what's been an enormous legacy that continues.
And for the under-19s in the Billigence under-19 classification, Hannah Giannati is still on top there, ahead of her teammate, Amelie Sanders. And again, huge representation, 6 out of the 8 from ARA Skip Capital. This is a team this year, Tills, that has gone away from even under-23s, and it is purely focusing on the under-19s.
Yeah, again, I think it was great for Hannah. She had a top 20 over the weekend. And also, I think, again, just for them to be seeing where the level is, where do they need to get to, the fact that these women now have a visual of what that next level looks like within the league is just so exciting and so motivating as well, you know, and to be able to see that, to be able to look back on the footage and see what they did and how they can improve. So I think we'll go a long way for those women.
And it's going to be a really tight contest. There's only 7 points separating from first place to third place. And there's 3 rounds remaining in the ProVelo Super League, but they won't be able to ride the Grafton because it's simply too long for their age category. The same in the men's. They won't be able to ride Grafton either. It is pretty exciting at the midway point, the first ever ProVelo Super League. And we had coverage of the opening day. Matilda, you and I got to commentate on it. But when it came to following the rest of it, we were on the ProVelo socials. We were watching the socials on ProVelo, and we were watching Angus Calder, who was on the ground, close up. So we're going to get Angus's take on the PSL Pulse. Angus, you must have enjoyed Tassie.
Yeah, it was fantastic down there. I think across the weekend, you know, we had 4 stages across 3 days, both the men's and the women's, such entertaining racing. I think pretty much from the get-go and the criterium all the way to the last race, finishing the men's race up on the Golden Valley Climb. Absolutely fantastic. I very nearly got my 2 picks right. I picked Zac Marriage and Ali Anderson, second. And chatting to them after the Butterfields teams after the men's race, they called me out for jinxing them. So I apologize. I don't know if I quite jinxed them. I think there were some very strong performances, but yeah, very nearly there.
No, it was pretty close. It was good picking. I'm keen to hear your analysis of the weekend.
Yeah, it was pretty fantastic to see. I'll start with the women maybe, and I think we'll get into this later on. But honestly, the main takeaway is how impressive a ride we saw from Sophie Marr. I think we all knew how fast she was as a sprinter. She obviously can climb quite well as well. We've seen that sort of throughout the league so far. Off the top of my head, I think she was maybe 8th or so in the hill climb TT at Up Wollonga. So she's got a strong climbing ability, but climbing up a 16-kilometer mountain is a completely different ball game, you know, and you can see as well, it was quite interesting seeing a bunch sprint at the top of that. I think the best way to do this is just to commend Prady's on how they rode for the weekend. Bonus seconds started to play a really important role in this one. She was picking up bonus seconds with all of her placing. She was on the podium for, I think, every stage actually in this tour. So she was picking bonus seconds up there. And then Prady's on that last stage. They managed the climb incredibly well. I think they obviously were 100% behind Sophie Marr. They had a couple of backup options there. Talia Appleton is an outstanding climber and I think was going to be a very comfortable shot should, you know, that race sort of split up there. But yeah, really impressed with how they committed and managed to execute with Sophie Marr there.
Yeah, Angus, on the women and Praddies, obviously a huge change, to have that SBS leaders jersey go on Sophie Marr from Talia Appleton, who we thought, was the favourite for the weekend as well. But I felt like we didn't maybe see Talia Appleton's full potential. I think, and I wasn't in the race, so I didn't see all the attacks that were maybe happening, and I'm keen to get your thoughts on that. But I know that if, you're a climber, if you've still got your sprinter, like Lorena Wiebes, if she's still there, you're not trying to drop her. Do you think that's what was happening? Or, how did those, or should they have driven it harder at the end?
Yeah, look, I would definitely agree with you. I think for Talia Appleton, she was very strong throughout this tour. And when you come into that final stage, I think you could see how committed the Praddies team were to supporting Sophie Marr. In the end, we look back at the results, it was obviously the correct decision and they nailed their ride up there. But for Talia, it removes the chance for her to go for her own result. She could have been one of those riders to do a lot of the damage. I would have expected to see her, Ali Anderson, also her Praddies teammate as well, Sophia Salmons. I think they were sort of the top three climbers, at least in my mind. We also had plenty of other very strong climbers there. Riley Ackroyd was doing incredibly well. I think having a rider that they were looking after there, sort of controlling the bunch a little bit more, having someone like Talia there, she's almost like, she's like keeping everybody in check. There's no one who is looking too closely at attacking because they know that Talia Appleton's there. She's patrolling everybody. That only comes with a reputation for being one of the best climbers. So they sort of needed her to be there, but I agree. It sort of removed her chance of really splitting that race up in the back half of the Golden Valley climb. I think she could have really given it a bit of an extra burn if she needed to. I would have loved to have seen a really strong climbing battle up there, but again, it's very easy to say, ride for someone like Sophie Marr, keep it controlled, look out for people like Ali Anderson. It's easy to say that on paper, but to do it, still very impressive.
There could be the chance, this is a statement/question to both of you, that for Talia Appleton, sure, she'll be disappointed that she no longer leads the league, but although there's just that one contract up for grabs technically with the Green Edge development team, other professional teams will look at this. Is Talia, she's only 19, isn't she? She's 19 or 20. And if I'm a team on the outside, I look at this and I go, okay, so she was leading and she has supported a teammate to win the race and take the lead. That's the kind of culture that you want in your team. And it could actually be a big plus for her and her prospects to get onto a big squad.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it shows when you're looking, if you're a team manager and you're looking at potential riders to recruit into your team, you don't just take the best rider because they're the best rider. Usually you have in your mind a certain position or a certain type of person that you want there. And there are obviously attributes that you want along with being an excellent bike rider. One of those is the ability to work within a team. Cycling is a team sport once you get into the elite levels. And if you've got someone like Talia, she's proven how capable she is. Her ride at the SA Kick-It was outstanding. She had another strong ride at the Women's Warrnambool Classic, and there are still 3 rounds to go. So she has plenty of time to prove herself as world-class. But to also be able to demonstrate her ability to work well within a team, it just shows such a rounded profile for somebody. And if you're a big team looking to take somebody on, and hopefully we're seeing a lot of these teams keeping an eye on the rides here, that's worth a lot. That goes a really long way for her trying to brand herself as an elite rider, and it shows a really high level of professionalism, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's how Simon Clark got his first contract. Because as an under-23 with the national team, one year he found himself working for Matt Goss. The next year he was working for Wes Salzberger. And he didn't win many races himself, but pro teams looked at that and thought, okay, well, he's at the front, he's near the big results, and he's moving super well. Okay, so what about the men's? What caught your attention in the men's, apart from Jack Ward winning by 1 second?
Yeah, gosh, how close was that? To be honest, the thing that I was most impressed with, again, I mentioned the bonus seconds before, was actually Zac Marriage. I think Zac's versatility this tour really impressed me. I thought he was going to do quite well in the time trial. He did. He picked up some bonus seconds there. But for Zac, he actually was on the podium in the crit. He was also on the podium in the road race. Same thing again for the mountain stage there. So he was picking up bonus seconds sort of in places where it wasn't really his business to be on the podium there. And I think that showed a lot of versatility. Jack Ward, we knew he was going to climb well, but again, I was just impressed with how well he climbed. He sort of just blasted away at sort of the bottom third of this climb, absolutely storming up there. So I knew he was good, but gee, that was very impressive.
I think what impressed me so much as well, exactly what you just said there, Angus, with Jack Ward, but just how brave he was in his attacks, that he went all in, and even if it potentially it could have, you know, blown up, which it sort of, yeah. Tell me how it played out on that third piece there with Hamish McKenzie actually getting over the top of them in the end there. Was it close there that he could have lost it all and then somehow came back in the last stage to attack again, almost with a similar tactic, but this time held off?
Yeah, it was interesting. So stage 2, the Sheffield Road Race, that was a really challenging stage. And we saw the group split up on the Union Bridge climb. I think Jack got maybe a little bit excited, sort of coming over the top of that one. The group had thinned down and he thought, yep, let's have a crack. I can't remember. I think it was maybe 30 or 40 Ks to go where he started to ride off the front there. And while he did end up getting caught, he finished, I think it was second on the stage there. That showed a lot of, number one, guts, but also incredible strength. He had a time trial where he had to perform later on. Maybe it sapped his legs a little bit for that one, but it showed that he's someone who's really able to and willing to sort of risk it to try and put himself out there and put in a good performance. Hamish McKenzie, excellent ride, to be honest, for that ride. Very clever, obviously very strong to get there, but he played off the rivalry between those two top, Zac Marriage and Jack Ward. He played that rivalry of the two of them perfectly. So he managed to sneak away. I think, though, coming into Golden Valley, everyone was really keeping a close eye on Zac Marriage, Jack Ward. Really, again, kudos to the Brennan team. They did a fantastic job keeping him safe, Jack Ward, throughout the first half of that race. There were quite a lot of crosswinds as well. So, you know, it's easy to say you just get to the bottom of the climb and you give it a rip. But I think the strength of his team is really helping him out a lot here. And then again, on that last stage, everybody knew he was going to attack at some point. For Zac Marriage, he knows Jack's going to have a crack at some point. All he needs to do is sort of sit there as close as he can and try and follow him. And for Jack to still be able to get away, still ride, he did pretty much half of the climb solo. And it's not a particularly steep climb. Drafting still plays a big role here. For him to just be by himself, really flying up there, yeah, it showed a lot of guts.
Oh, I wish we were able to cover the whole thing, and hopefully as the ProVelo Super League grows, we'll be able to get more and more coverage. But Angus, you're taking the pulse on it. It's been sensational. One last quick question for you. Zac Marriage, he was third on stage 1. He was third on stage 2. He was second on stage 3, and he put 17 seconds into Jack Ward. He was second on stage 4, and he lost 17 seconds to Jack Ward. He loses the tour by 1 second. It came down to bonus seconds. Are you yes or no for bonus seconds?
Oh, it's such a tricky thing to say. You know, if you'd asked me while I was a rider, I was sort of more of a climber type rider. I didn't have too bad a sprint, but I was never going to be up at the podium for crits and things. I would have said, get rid of them. I don't want these things here. You know, it'll favor me. Now, as more of a spectator, I think they're really good. And especially at this level, it shows that you have to have more of that versatility. And if you do have more versatility, you can use that to your advantage. That's something which will serve you well when you step up. So I'm going to say yes to bonus seconds. And for someone like Jack, you know, he's still picked up bonus seconds in the crit in Adelaide. That served him really well there. So I think it shows extra versatility. And for the ProVelo Super League, we're trying to showcase these riders' abilities, how strong they are, how rounded they are, how worthy they are to sort of step up into that world tour. I think it's a great way to give them more opportunities to prove that.
I'm taking that as a firm yes, and we'll have you back next week as we do the preview for the Harbour City GP.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Phils, I'm a yes for time bonuses. And as Angus said, it actually helps highlight a rider's versatility. And first and second in the men's, versatile.
Yeah, and it brings forward a rounded athlete, doesn't it? And it means they can't switch off, which I think speaks to Zac right now, actually. He is alight the entire round at the moment, trying to scrape and claw back whatever he can.
Well, let's get him on. Zac Marriage has been patiently waiting in the green room. He's in the car, the green car, Zac. Where are you?
Yeah, I'm just coming back from a gym session, actually. So, yeah.
Gym.
Pardon?
What did you do in the gym? What was the session?
Mostly just some squats, some RDLs, and then some hot cold stuff afterwards for recovery.
How many times a week do you go to the gym?
Oh, it's a bit tricky with the ProVelo series being away so much and so often, but usually try to go twice a week.
Nice. Okay, let's cut to it. 1 second to be in second position. You must have been really pleased with how you performed physically, but that must be also super frustrating, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, we don't train for second place, but can't be too mad with 1 second. Definitely, the form's good. It's just beaten by a better man on the last stage, which it's always it's a good way to lose a race if you got to lose them in the all. But yeah, it makes me hungry for the next time for sure.
Zach, that's right. We throw away those silver medals. Now, talk me through it. You're just under 30 points away from leading the ProVelo Super League. How do you win this thing?
Oh, consistency, I think, is a big one. I didn't get to finish the Adelaide round because of TDU commitments. That kind of put me behind. So I've kind of been chasing Jack this whole time, which has been a challenge. He's a phenomenal bike rider. So I guess in Tour of Tasmania, I felt like I was pretty consistent in all the stages. I just need hopefully to repeat that again for the remaining two, and then have a good Grafton, obviously.
Oh, we just saw some footage of you winning Grafton. And is it right that Jack Ward's not going to be racing? Yeah, we spoke to Jack last week. He's going to focus on the mountain bike nationals. Good decision or bad decision by Jack?
Oh, it's a tacky one. For me, it's a good decision, obviously.
Great decision.
Yeah. But I think it's a good decision for him as well. He's a phenomenal mountain bike rider, and it'd be really, I'm sure he's my tip to win that race. So, yeah, it's good for us. It's an opportunity for me to grab some points back. So, all being well, it should be a really close tour in Queensland at the end.
Jack, how are you going with having to, I guess, do it all? So, like, did you ever expect that, you're in the gym trying to get gains at the moment, that you'd be trying to go for the win in a criterium against these sprinters, and you're trying to scrape for any second that you can, no matter the race that it is? Is every race that you're heading into, you're going into it trying to win?
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much try to get their hands in the air as much as possible. I guess with the bonus seconds as well, third place in the crit really helps, especially if they're coming down to time gaps like 1 second. So every time bonus really helps. So have to be attentive the whole time. So even if that means like going for a sprint in the halfway through a stage, even though there's a mountain at the end, or trying to box on with the sprinters in the crit.
Do you like the time bonuses?
It's a good dynamic. It keeps it very interesting. I feel like otherwise, especially with the next few tours when it's only a time trial, it will kind of make it makes the race more interesting for that. I feel, especially for the spectators. I mean, I feel like I've got a pretty good kick, so it's good for me. But then Jack Ward seems to be out kicking me at the moment. So I think.
Well, I don't know if he didn't out kick you in the criterium. His team beat you when it came to getting those time bonuses. And the team was really important on the last stage as well. And there was some great in-car footage that you can see on the ProVelo Super League Instagram account of Tim Decker giving the instructions. And you were isolated. Take us through the final few moments on that climb, and you knowing that you were outnumbered and it was you versus the guys in orange. Yeah, exactly. They're a phenomenal team full of really good leadership in the car and really good bike riders. So it has making it a bit difficult, but you can kind of play on that sometimes. It's they can all win the race, so maybe they all want to sometimes. It's kind of the only real card I've got to play when it's like 3 versus 1. So it's handy having Jack there, because I know it's kind of at the end of the day it's me versus him in the overall at the moment. And then so the last attack, I knew he was going to go. His team set him up perfectly, and then I guess from that moment I could either try to launch again and then likely be attacked again, or I made the decision to just try to get to the top as quick as I possibly could, which I guess it was a 1 second wrong decision, but it's you never know what would happen the other way. So it's decisions in the race that make it real tricky, and having all of those Brennan guys. It's a cool race, and it's really motivated our guys to step up, especially there's no coverage for the whole race in Tasmania, but our guys really stepped up in the last stage.
Zach, I don't want to look too far ahead because everything's happening right now, but do you have any plans after the ProVelo Super League finishes this season?
Yeah, well, we go full for the ProVelo Super League. I was trying to win that, and then head over to Asia with 7-Eleven Road Bike Philippines, and do lots of Chinese races, lots of the Asian circuit. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Good luck.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Zach, and good luck. We will see you in Sydney.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
straight out of the gym, having a chat to us on the road to the World Tour with the ProVelo Super League. I love how composed he is, and acknowledging that, yes, frustrating to be second by just the 1 second, but the way he conducted himself then speaks volumes of the quality that he is off the bike, not just the quality athlete, but the quality human being that he is.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it to Angus was mentioning it before, Matt, offline, just that he has little similarities between Vindegaard, I think, Jonas. And so that really comes through when you speak to him. And, even just in his mannerisms, and he's just a really genuine guy as well. When we had the chance to speak to him at the Nationals, and he was, the winner of the under 23s there, he's doing everything he can. And I think, as we spoke about before, the rumors are, Matt, in the cars, between the cars, that people that it's not just Jayco Lula. Other teams are watching, and I've heard Jerry Ryan isn't looking to just potentially sign one person in. That's just the one he gets guaranteed, but he will definitely grab another if it's there.
Yeah, and that's one of the elements that we spoke about before in relation to the women's with Talia Appleton and Sophie Marr. Now, they are teammates. We've got Sophie Marr online with us, who was the winner of the Tour of Tasmania. Sophie.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Sophie. Well done, Queen. Woo! Who knew?
I
know. Hang on. Now, I got to ask the first question. Okay, Sophie, I had you picked as the second favourite to win the crit behind Keely, and you delivered on that. I did not have you picked to win the general classification and cope with that climb. Since when have you climbed that well?
To be honest, I've always kind of enjoyed climbing. I wouldn't say it's my specialty, obviously. I've had a bit of experience now, like things like Tour de l'Avenir. That's definitely put some climbing legs on me. But I think hills are kind of fun. I'd actually almost prefer a hilly race than a crit sometimes.
It's all about attitude, Soph, on that one. With at what point did you, or was it the whole time, when were you thinking about GC, or were you just thinking about the crit, or did you think you actually could take the GC for the Tour Spirit of Tasmania, which is traditionally known as a hill climbers tour?
I definitely didn't plan on GC like going into it. I definitely planned for the criterium in stage 2, we reconned stage 2 and we were like, this is very, very grippy climbs. But I knew if I got over that and potentially if it would end in a kick that I could potentially be good there because I tend to recover pretty well. And then it was only really after the time trial that I realized that GC could be up for grabs. I wasn't sure where I'd sit after the time trial. I can time trial pretty well, but there's some really strong riders out there. Talia's really strong, Sophia from our team as well. And yeah.
We're looking at some great footage from the race, and brilliant win getting the better of Keely Bennett on the second stage after being second to her in the crit. But we just had Zac on. He spoke about the strength of Team Brennan. And we're looking at these images and we can just see the strength. A brilliant win by Lauren Bates, incidentally. She was climbing brilliantly. But the amount of blue jerseys out there, the amount of Praties riders out there, that must give you a lot of confidence when you're the race leader.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we had our whole team in the front group of, I think it was about 15 or less. So that's basically half the riders. It really shows the strength of our team. And it definitely is very intimidating for the other girls who may only have one or two other teammates, such as Butterfields or Meridian.
Yeah, so Keely Bennett was going into that last stage wearing the overall leader's jersey for the tour. Who did you fear the most, though, for your prospects of winning the Tour of Tasmania going into that last stage?
Definitely Ali Anderson. We knew that if we could drop Keely up the climb, that GC was in my hands as long as I could, I guess, stay on Ali's wheel. I know that she's a really good climber. I've trained with her a lot, lived with her. So, I mean, I understand her as a rider. Definitely worried for some of the other Butterfields girls, such as M. Dixon and Rachel. They were all very strong, and Caitlin. So, yeah, but strength in numbers really helped us in this situation.
So if you'd go into Sydney with the SBS league leaders jersey. Do you dare to dream of what could be after the league?
Oh, of course. I mean, don't we all? It'd be a great opportunity, but I won't hold my breath, I guess. We'll see how it pans out. Yeah.
What were your expectations coming into it? Before the start of the ProVelo Super League, did you start at thinking, I can win this, I can get the contract?
Yeah, definitely. I think I have aspects of an all-round rider. Although a lot of the events that I have done well in before this, I guess, had been sprints. I guess that was kind of what a lot of them were as well. But like, there's such strong girls in the fields. I really didn't know where I was sitting, especially coming into the season. I had a pretty late break last year. It's just such a long season if you race overseas as well. So yeah, we'll see how the rest of it pans out.
I assume Europe is on the agenda for the next part of the season after they finish the ProVelo Super League.
Yeah, I'll head over in April. It's actually pretty touch and go after ProVelo. I won't be spending much time around.
Where you headed and what's the plan?
I'll be riding or racing with a Kiwi club team called Black Magic. You may have seen a few of the girls
Yep.
here. And yeah, we'll be based in Belgium, so it'll be pretty cold and miserable in April, but hopefully it warms up pretty quickly.
I reckon the terrain might suit you. You've a few little climbs, good for the sprinter. You can handle the bike brilliantly as well. Congratulations on Tasmania. Good luck for the rest of the ProVelo Super League. And no matter what happens at the end of race 6 up in the Q Tour, we're going to keep tracking you throughout the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Sophie Marr. What a brilliant
Sophie.
performance. And that win on stage 2 was huge. But the way she muscled her way up the final climb on stage 4, enormous.
Yeah, and I think she sort of just spoke to a little bit then as well, Matt, on just she needed to be ahead of Keely, and then she was the leader of that round and so I think Talia and the other teammates, they would have been looking to how to protect her, because that's what you're after. There's all these different narratives that is happening, I think, in the race. But I've got to say, I am extremely impressed with how Sophie has stepped up in her performance this year. I've been a part of and seen, and she's always had some consistent performances, but and she's done well in Europe, a couple of top 20s against some huge World Tour names. But I think this year we've really seen her step up. And Matt, we've got to remember, these are still very, very young women. Young, like 19, 20. And so they do have these huge developments year on year, but they are young, and what they're dealing with and taking on is very admirable.
Yeah, and what the top 2 are dealing with at the moment, Sophie Marr and Talia Appleton, there's only a handful of points that separates them in the race for the coveted contract, yet they're leading the SBS Women's League and their teammates. So that's going to be really challenging space for both of them. And they're got a really good team manager. Having Andrew Christie Johnson is perfect. He's the best guy to be able to handle that. But, from a media perspective, you love the idea of having Demi Vollering and lots of Kopecky teammates, and that explodes, or Chris Froome and Bradley Wiggins. I don't think that that's going to happen, but it's actually going to be a really great development experience. Some of it's going to be challenging, but it's going to make them better athletes and better able to cope with pressure by the end of this league.
Oh, 100%. And the other important thing, again, Matt, we talk about it a lot, but footage, coverage, the fact that we could actually see the way that Talia rode within herself to also look after Soph. We're not just referring to the results sheet and going, oh, what happened there? Who knows? This is why also coverage is so important. Like the directors and the sportives who are watching this going, oh, I can see what she was doing there. And possibly that she didn't climb out of her skin because she was trying to look after a teammate. So again, there's just so many levels that coverage is important.
Yeah, and we didn't get any coverage of stage 2, which was a stage that really caught my attention when I saw the results come through in the men's race with Hamish McKenzie, who is a rider that since I first saw him at the national championships and the under-19s, thought, wow, this guy is going to go a long way. We wanted to be able to catch up with him, but he's making his way across to Europe. So Dan Jones spoke to him whilst he was in Tassie. Let's have a listen to what Hamish McKenzie had to say.
About 5 minutes before the crid on Friday, my great-grandmother unfortunately passed away, and she's one of my biggest fans and always would call me after every race. She was 98, so she had a good innings, and she was one of my biggest supporters. That meant a lot. But also just all the bad things that happened over the last year, and coming back from injury, and just a lot of hard work went into that, and Yeah, to be honest, I didn't know if I was going to get it done. Like, Zac seemed still super strong up until that last climb, and then when they weren't whacking, I thought, yeah, it must be feeling the best. And I was like, right, I've got one attempt at this. Yeah, just whacked as hard as I could, and then when I saw I had the gap, and I knew the finish well. The last 3Ks just gently downhill. You wouldn't have to pedal so much, and I knew they just wouldn't be able to catch on a downhill like that. So in the final, I don't think I've dug so deep in my racing career, and yeah, I really want to do that for Grandma, and I know she'll be super proud. Yeah, I stayed back just especially this last one. The team wanted me at training camp, and I sort of pushed back a little bit. Just I wanted to, yeah, after last year I really was quite down the dumps. I needed this confidence, and I knew if I was going well that, yeah, I'd be able to produce some good results here, and being able to race this level. And I've got a few younger guys that also coach in this team, and be here with them means a lot to see them racing as well. And yeah, mainly just to get my confidence back and that smile back in the bike, and feeling like I'm racing actually at the front of the bike racing and learning how to win again. Oh, you honestly just gotta keep battling. Like, there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and as long as you keep working hard, you're always going to come back. To be honest, just having my support group come back to Australia and being here with the Tasmania Institute of Sport and Maddie Gilmore, the gym coaches, all my other coaches, the physios, everyone's been such a big part of this comeback, and yeah, I really can't thank them enough. I think the best thing is, if you're good at something, just be really good at it and stick to your guns and keep training hard. But I think this series especially is going to open up a lot of opportunities for people when they see a lot of top guys that are going super well, and like guys from Europe can see. It's sort of hard because people like scouts don't really know the level here in Australia. They see the level here that we produce and the guys that are racing, they'll get a better understanding, and I think they'll open up a lot of opportunities. So as long as guys are knuckled down, and it's a great period of racing that span across this ProVelo, so you have a good chance to be fit for these few months, and yeah, it could sort of be life-changing for you.
Well, Tils,
That was almost
Great
emotional. I
grandma.
must be hormonal.
great grandma's given an extra cup. That was amazing. I wasn't aware of that. I was not aware of that before the race, and I've done one interview maybe with Hamish on a podium at a national championships. I've never had an actual conversation with him. In that few minutes that we had there, that's the most I've gotten to know him, and there's a lot to like.
Yeah, no, Dan Jones knows how to pull on heartstrings, and that was like the music was like Bilbo Baggins coming from the Lord of the Rings. I did see Hamish McKenzie do the salute to the sky, and I had wondered what that was in conjunction to. And I think, Matt, huge for him to push back on the development team and say, I want to stay, I need this. And I think how fantastic that he now goes away and with this confidence. And it was a great result.
Yeah, and this is one of the big challenges as an Australian going over to Europe, is that inability to come home and hit the reset button. But if you're, from one of the European countries, you can go back home you might necessarily go back to your parents' place, but you can go back to your hometown and you can hit the reset. So that's been an important reset for him. And I'm pretty confident that a fair bit of credit would probably need to go to Matt Gilmore as the coach of the Tasmanian Institute of Sport to give him the self-belief. And there's the science of coaching and there's the art of coaching. And Matt Gilmore he's good with the science, but I reckon he's even better with the art.
Yeah, and we're really fortunate to have a number of those style of coaches, I think, in Australia. And, Tassie's even that step further, Matt, from trying to get home from Europe. You couldn't get further away from there. But yeah, a great work to Dan. I know he's not on here getting a lot of credit either. And just how fortunate we are to have that type of production behind us.
Yeah, and somebody that does a lot of the legwork that doesn't get the credit for it and the recognition is Darren Casey. Everybody knows him as Turtle. Who's Darren Casey? I know who Turtle is. There he is. He's been lining up a lot of the videos. He's been doing probably 90% of the social media posts for ProVelo Super League. And on the weekend, they needed somebody to help out with the spares in the SRAM neutral service vehicle. So Turtle hopped in because he was previously a mechanic for the Gerolsteiner team in Germany.
Honestly, Turtle has stepped up this season. He's like MVP. There's not a single person. I think the pros must start running when they see him coming towards him with that green mic. There's not a professional name that Turtle hasn't stuck that mic in front of, particularly over the summer. So yeah, he's done an absolutely fantastic job and given us so much insight that we never would have had previously, and also knows all the riders so well as well.
Yeah, he knows who's finishing 17th and 21st. He is across the whole lot. So if you want to get more of his content, follow ProVelo Super League. He's doing most of the posts that are on there. Our next one, Tills, is next weekend, Friday through to Sunday. It's the Harbour City GP, and we get that big battle once again. It's really tight in the men's and it's really tight in the women's. So next week we'll be back on Wednesday to preview it.
Huge, Matt. Racing returns to the city, to the Harbour City, and it's been a long time. There hasn't been an NRS in Sydney during my time at all. We used to have a crit race that we used to do there, but that was it. So to have any type of racing with any type of coverage in Sydney is going to be fantastic.
So I hope you can all join us next week for that. In the meantime, make sure you follow us on the socials, tell your friends about it, share the YouTube clip as well. Post the podcast out and get people involved in the ProVelo Super League. 3 rounds down, 3 to go. Till next week.
Yes, bye for now. Thanks so much for watching.